Hello everyone, what are we going to learn today? Let's take a look here. Baisakhi is a popular festival of harvest in Punjab, which Punjab celebrates wholeheartedly every year. About 100 years ago, at Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, Punjab, the Baisakhi celebration was somewhat similar. 100 years ago, on this day, a tragedy unfolded, one that history claims as one of the bloodiest and darkest days of the Indian struggle for independence. In April 1919, the British government was at the pinnacle of its rule. Tension was brewing in the city of Amritsar, Punjab, amid riots and protests against the tyranny of the British and continuous retaliation by the British Raj. To crush the voices of Inqilab and terrorize people into submission, the British brought in Brigadier General Reginald Dyer. He imposed martial law. It restricted civil liberties such as freedom of meetings and associations. Gatherings of more than 4 people were prohibited. At that time, the military commanders had complete authority to punish the violators of the law. On 13th April 1919, nearly 20,000 people gathered at Jallianwala Bagh for the celebration of Baisakhi and some in protest of the Rowlatt Act. The Rowlatt Act was an act which allowed the British government the authority and the power to arrest people and keep them in prison without any trial and conviction in a court of law if they were suspected with a charge of terrorism. So a large peaceful crowd had gathered to protest against the arrest of pro-Indian independence leaders Dr. Saifuddin and Dr. Satyapal. On the same day, Colonel Dyer received word of a protest meeting being organized at Jallianwala Bagh. He then led his troops and stormed into the Bagh armed with rifles. Dyer and his armed forces entered the location. The Jallianwala Bagh was nearly completely enclosed by walls and had only one exit. The British troops blocked the only entrance to the walled garden, and without any warning, they indiscriminately opened fire. With no means to escape, people ran helter-skelter for their lives. To save themselves from the firing, some jumped into the well, dying in its confining depths. People rushed to the exits, but Dyer directed his soldiers to fire at the exit. Many people from the crowd were killed. The bloodbath ended only after the British troops had exhausted their ammunition. The official death count as recorded by the British government was 379 with about 1100 wounded. But the actual death toll, as per the Indian National Congress, was over 1000 with about 1500 injured. The news of the massacre spread like wildfire across the country. This massacre was one of the deadliest attacks in the history of the world and also marked a turning point in India's freedom struggle. It encouraged many more to strenuously participate in the struggle for India's independence. People all over North India started to protest. Jallianwala Bagh is a symbol of sacrifice made at the altar of freedom by hundreds of unnamed and unadorned patriots. It is a monument to the historic struggle for independence. We pay our respects to those great souls who were martyred at the site over a century ago.